captured at command post.
Welcome back to another video. Now that Battlefront Classic Edition, both 1 and 2 are releasing next week on March 14th, 2024, I'd like to share my tips after playing this game way back from 2005 for the top heroes and villains that you should be playing if you want to moss some kids and old school millennials coming back to this game. And with that, y'all, let's see who takes the high ground. Alright, so we're going to break this down with a quick tier list, and this is only going to be covering the playable heroes and villains. I'm not going to include Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress, who are DLC playable characters way back in the day from the 2005 Battlefront 2 original edition. I never got to play as them. I was on the PlayStation 2 and they were Xbox only DLC exclusives, so I never got a chance to really fire them up. They are going to be included in the Classic Edition, so it's going to be sick. Eventually I'll be able to slot them in maybe in an updated list, but for now we're going to just be going with the classic assortment of heroes and villains. These are just my personal opinion, and I had a lot of friends that are able to completely moss me with different heroes given different situations in the game, so feel free to let me know in the comments if y'all were vibing with a different hero in the game. So to look at our tier list, we have it broken down by 5 different categories. We have our chosen ones at the top. These are the strongest heroes in my opinion, the ones that I would just moss any game mode with, doesn't matter what it would be. Our next one's going to be I Have the High Ground. These are going to be characters that are also very strong, but I would say that they are more situational, and I would say some of their abilities weren't as strong as the chosen ones. Never tell them the odds. These are characters that you're going to just be vibing with this character. You know, they're okay. They could definitely take on an S tier hero. I wouldn't say that these heroes or villains are going to be winning you any matches based on their base abilities. I hate sand. So any heroes or villains that I'm throwing in this list, I personally don't vibe with too much. There's either a move or the way that the character operates that just puts them at a natural disadvantage. But you know, sometimes the mini chlorine count's just not there. You can still get it done though. And then we got ourselves the Banthapoodus of people that I knew who played these characters either didn't really know what they were doing, or they've been playing the game for so long that they're absolutely just trolling on someone. So if y'all picking up those Banthapoodus, props to y'all, but you'll be struggling. I'm going to be bouncing around this list a little bit. We're going to go ahead and pick up Anakin Skywalker. He is going to be our first chosen one character. Big reason why Anakin gets Force Choke, which is one of the strongest abilities that you can have as a hero or villain on the assault modes where you pit the heroes and villains against each other. Completely knocks out any opponent that you use Force Choke on, and then you just run up to them and pull off your basic combo and they're gone essentially. He's got a pretty solid base attack. We'll talk about it a little bit more because him and Obi-Wan Kenobi share the same moveset. He has a decent jump attacks, pretty fair both in the heroes versus villain mode as well as the normal conquest modes, and his sprint attack's also very efficient. You can combo it up a little bit. It's very easy to trap additional characters in the sprint, and you can get out of the sprint ability fairly quickly. And just to break it down as well, every single hero or villain gets 2 different special abilities. In this case, Anakin gets the lightsaber throw, which is a very basic move that most characters have, but it's extremely strong and it would put a lot of characters in general in an S tier. And then that Force Choke ability as well. It's just fairly unique. Only a handful of characters have it in this game, but it's super strong in Anakin just because he also happens to be a little bit faster than the other characters who have Force Choke. So that additional base speed, both running and sprinting, super helpful. Our next character is going to be Aayla Secura up in the S tier. I'm actually going to move Aayla a little bit further up over to the left. I think she's better than Anakin Skywalker, and she's the best character in my opinion in the game. Solid basic attack, can trap in multiple characters if you need to. She has Force Pull, which is extremely helpful when you're fighting the heroes and villains. You can pull in 3 or 4 different infantry characters, and then you also got Saber Throw. Pretty quick, same speed as Anakin Skywalker. One of the best jumps and sprint attacks in the game. Y'all just got to try it out. So definitely putting Aayla Secura up here. So next we got Boba Fett. I'm going to go ahead and put him in the Eye of the High Ground. There's a handful of ranged characters in this game that don't have any force powers. Most of the non-force users are just a little bit slower in terms of their overall sprinting ability than the characters who do have the force. What's nice about Boba Fett, he has a jetpack. He has a solid blaster. It's essentially the elite blaster that you would get from the base infantry, so you can get a lot of headshot damage. It kind of fires like a battle rifle from Halo. You get a det pack, which is pretty efficient in both the conquest modes and the hero mode. You can go in and drop a det pack on like a doorway or something, or drop it on a vehicle. I think it's one of the better secondary moves. What puts Boba out of the S tier outside of him not having the force, flamethrower is weak. If you're using the flamethrower, you're just trying to have some fun because, man, that is absolute trash. The wrist rocket's great. It can knock an opponent off their feet, which is super helpful if you need to give yourself a little bit of breathing room between another villain. Definitely down with the wrist rocket. The jetpack is super nice to kind of get you out of a quick pickle, but what's unfortunate is most of the areas and vantage points that you can get to as Boba Fett, a lot of the force users are able to just triple jump their way up there anyway, so you're not going to be able to just stay there for long. All right, we got Chewbacca, and he is going to be our first Bantha Poodoo, but you know, he has a little bit more health. It's probably somewhere like the 15% range versus the other characters. The Wookiees in general are fairly strong infantry characters, but yo, Chewbacca, absolute trash. At least I wasn't able to use him much in almost any of the game modes. He has a slower run speed and sprint speed than any of the other characters. Granted, he is a little bit faster than your normal Wookiee, which is helpful. The bowcaster is pretty mid. One of the worst hero villain weapons in the entire game. The guided rocket is absolute joke. It's Chewbacca's secondary ability. Fire it off, you can kind of control where the rocket goes. It's kind of fun, but Chewbacca is completely frozen. You can't control him at all. So most of the time, you're not going to be hitting anything, maybe a vehicle. Time bombs are the worst ability. It takes about 5 seconds for him to blow up. You could drop him at a door, but the thing is, as soon as a time bomb is dropped, everyone sees the countdown. So if you're in heroes versus villains, they're all going to see it. The only thing that it's typically good for is you could stick it on a vehicle or you could stick it at an objective. But next we get Count Dooku, and he's going to be in Never Tell Me the Odds. I think he's probably a solid mid character in this game. It's kind of tough because Dooku is actually one of my favorite characters of the Star Wars universe. He's great against heroes, and the reason why is he has Force Choke. I know we talked about that with Anakin a little bit. So you can go ahead and lock down a hero or another villain, and then you can go ahead and do your basic attack combo or sprint attack with him. He is a little bit on the slower side in terms of his basic attacks. He has a pretty quick sprint attack. It's okay. It's not like one of the best. I'd probably put it like just a hair below Anakin and Obi-Wan's sprint attack. He has a weaker jump attack. It just kind of like swoops down and does little swoop maneuvers. His secondary ability is Force Lightning. I would say Force Lightning is decent against infantry units, especially in the larger groups where it chains together, but it's fairly weak, and it's really only peppering damage. It's kind of just your distance maneuver to get a little bit of quick damage in. It does have a small stun ability, a little bit hit or miss, and it's not something that you're going to be using very often, so got to put him in the Never Tell Me the Odds as our mid character. Now we're bouncing back up. We got Darth Maul, and he is going to be in our S tier. I'm actually going to shift him a little bit further than Anakin. So Darth Maul's main strengths, I would say, come in the conquest modes, and it's mainly because Darth Maul is extremely fast. His basic attack, as well, because he has the double-bladed lightsaber, captures a boatload of infantry units. So one of the better sprint attacks, it operates very similar to Aayla Secura, just kind of like pulls a group of units or an individual within their attack frame. He has a very large saber throw. He has the best saber throw in the game, just given the extra length of the blade. He has force push, which it's okay. Kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room in heroes versus villains. You can force push some people off of a ledge. I personally prefer force pull, so that's why I put Aayla Secura a little bit higher than Darth Maul. Dude's fast. He has a great jump attack that can hit multiple enemies, so all around great character. Now we have ourselves Darth Vader, and I'm going to put him I have the high ground. So Darth Vader is an interesting one. One of my favorite characters to use in the game. He has the fastest sprint in the game. He doesn't really run. He just uses the force and like glides across the battlefield. It's crazy fast. Your stamina or force bar is going to drop tremendously quick. It allows you to just like completely take an enemy off guard, especially when you're playing with friends. Dude can just swoop in on anyone. He's the only character who can move that quick. He has the slowest base movement speed, but the fastest sprint speed. So just keep that in mind when you're playing as Darth Vader. He also can hover in the air. Only him and the Emperor can just float around. So, that's pretty useful. You give yourself a little bit of a vantage point. He has the same drop and jump attack as Count Dooku, so it's okay. You just kind of like float above the enemy, just drop down and give him the swoop. He has two solid and I would say the best force abilities, so that's saber throw and force choke. So the saber throw helps out a lot because you just are not going to be able to run up to a lot of enemies with that base speed, and his basic attack it's decent, but it doesn't really pull in a whole lot of units. And because he doesn't have a lot of movement speed, base movement speed, you're not able to kind of like maneuver yourself around to pull in more units to your basic attack. Because of the slow movement speed, he's going to be out of the chosen ones, but because he has that sprint ability, force choke, and lightsaber throw, he's one of the strongest characters in the game. Put him in chosen ones in Heroes vs. Villains, but just because you're also going to be playing in Conquest, etc., I'm putting him in a balanced high ground area. This party's over. We're gonna drop him and never tell me the odds. Mace Windu, I really like to use this character personally. He has a solid basic attack. I typically look for characters that are pulling in multiple units. He has a very unique ground pound jump attack. It operates similar to what Emperor Palpatine does with his force lightning punch when he jumps onto the ground. It's pretty efficient. It doesn't really have a stun or anything. It's just okay. What I really don't care for too much with Mace Windu is his sprint attack, and I would say it's better against individuals. It's definitely okay against infantry, but you got to be pretty precise and know what you're doing with his sprint attack. He has lightsaber throw, which is good, and then he has a basic force push, which is kind of a mid ability in my opinion. So put him in the never tell me the odds. Now we got Jango Fett. So we are going to be living in this section a little bit more. I put Jango behind both. I'm going to go ahead and actually make an adjustment here. I would say Darth Vader goes a little bit in front of Boba Fett in this case. Go ahead and keep our left side as like our slightly better version, and characters can taper off to the slightly worse section on the right side. Jango's the worst of the Never Tell Me the Odds group. It's tough because he plays almost identical to Boba Fett, but it's the weapons that they give him and the secondary abilities. So the first one is his blaster. It's okay. I would say it's more of like a sniper rifle that he happens to be using as a pistol. I kind of wish he had his dual Westar pistols from the movies, but they just gave him a single pistol. It has a sniper scope, so you're able to kind of get into a little bit more range than Boba Fett. And there's good headshot damage. You just have to be very precise. It's also very tricky to hit those headshots when you're in Heroes versus Villains, especially against like human players. So as long as you get those headshots, though, the weapon could be elite, but for the most part, you're going to be just getting a ton of body shots. Big reason why I put him in this tier is he's got the time bomb, the same as Chewie. The worst secondary ability. To add on to it, he's also got the weak flamethrower, so you get the weakest part of Boba Fett as well in Jango. So flamethrower is okay against a group of like low level infantry, but good luck ever using it against a hero. You got to be super close. So the whole reason that Jango has that jetpack to stay at a distance with his sniper pistol, you just defeated the purpose of it when you throw out the flamethrower. Wrist rocket is a great ability, so at least you have that, give you a little bit of breathing room and knock a hero or villain off their feet. Jetpack again is one of the better abilities. Doesn't have any jump attacks. He is again slower than the force users, so just keep that in mind when you're running around. All the force users are pretty much going to be able to catch up to you. One of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars is going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm going to put him in Eye of the High Ground naturally, and I would put Obi-Wan right after Darth Vader and before Boba Fett in this case. He has the exact identical save movelets. He has the identical move set as Anakin Skywalker. I just think he looks better pulling off the moves personally. So same basic attack, same sprint attack, same jump attack, same speed. He has the same lightsaber throw ability. The only difference is he has force push instead of force choke. Anakin's definitely going to be superior in that secondary force ability aspect because force choke is just superior. So great all-around character, solid in both the hero mode and your normal conquest modes with infantry. Just a personal favorite of mine, so try not to be too biased. I do think he can definitely hold his own against the chosen ones. So now we got General Grievous, and I know this is going to be tough, but I got to put him in the I hate sand category. One of my favorite characters in the game. He's a lot of fun to play as with the 4 lightsabers extending out with his basic attack and his sprint. He does have some pretty distinct disadvantages. One disadvantage of Grievous is his base movement speed. Moving around, you can always sprint to get where you need to go, but the base movement speed is really helpful for you to kind of pull characters in your basic attack and really start up those combos to finish them off. It's kind of the same reason Darth Vader's out of the Chosen Ones category, because his base speed is so slow. Grievous is a little bit faster. I'd probably put him around the same speed as a base Yoda. Good basic attack. The 4 lightsabers coming out hit a bunch of enemies. There's a lot of range that he has. He has a pretty basic jump attack, pretty much identical to Count Dooku and Darth Vader with just like the swoop. I guess this is just like, come to the dark side where we're all giving you a copy-paste jump attack ability. What puts him at a tricky position is his sprint attack. The benefit of the sprint attack is it's fairly long. The duration of the attack and the frames, they're going to capture a lot of characters. It's a tough ability to master, just because there's a little bit of timing that you really got to catch. Similar to Mace Windu, you'll just have to kind of utilize him to see and kind of feel it out. But if you can trap You know, if you can trap heroes and multiple characters in that sprint, he's a great character and can probably push himself up even to the high ground. I would say he's not the most ideal character, and I think the biggest disadvantage is because he can't use the force. He doesn't have a lightsaber throw ability, which, you know, as a melee character, not being able to hit those characters at range, it's really unfortunate, and I would say it's a big reason why he doesn't excel well in the conquest game modes. And he only has one secondary ability, and it's rage. Pretty mid ability. It's kind of a support ability that gives you a little bit of extra damage. You know, you have unlimited uses, but it's on a recharge. I kind of think it's useless, but you know, if you want to go in and rage really quick before you jump in with your friends to, you know, jump someone, kind of sucks that they gave Grievous more of a support backup ability. I forgot to mention that Chewie also has the rage ability. He still stays in Poodoo though, because rage is Poodoo. He's Poodoo. We're not moving Chewie. Han Solo, never tell me the odds himself, and he's bouncing out into I have the high ground, and I'm putting him right after Boba Fett. So Mr. Harrison Ford himself. I think he has the best blaster in the game. It operates identical essentially to Boba Fett, except it doesn't have ammo. It operates on a cooldown, so you have unlimited shots, just as long as you maintain your cooling. He's about as fast as Jango Fett in terms of his base movement speed and his sprint, so just keep that in mind that, you know, doesn't have the force, not gonna have force sprint. He has a jet pack, which is great against trapping some heroes and, you know, surprising some people. A lot of good, knocking characters off their feet, but I wouldn't say it's an S tier ability. He has rally, which is really helpful. This is going to add a little bit of additional armor to your characters, so he gets a little bit of a support role, and it's pretty good. It keeps you alive a little bit, adds a little bit of extra shielding and damage reduction. He has a fusion cutter, so I would say this is definitely more of a conquest vehicle based ability. Fusion cutters are always going to come in handy when you're going to be teaming up with your friends in a vehicle and then to slice enemies out of their vehicle. So a very strong multi-use weapon that no other hero has in the game. I would just keep him out of the chosen ones category. Just, he obviously doesn't have the force, and then Boba does have the jetpack, so I would say that gives him a little bit of an advantage in hero versus villains. If you get land some headshots with that pistol, the DL-44, it's a strong gun, one of the strongest ones in the game. So we got Ki-Adi-Mundi, and this boy has the high ground as well. I think I'm going to slot him in right in between Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. Very interesting character. He actually shares the same basic attack move list as Luke Skywalker, and it's a really good one. It's great against individual one-on-one scenarios, and it's also solid in conquest modes to really pull in a large group of characters, especially with that finishing move where he kind of does a quick spin and spins around with the 360. He has a very interesting sprint attack. He's the only character who has this sprint attack, and it's a jumping sprint attack. So he runs up, and you can continually control how long the sprint attack is used, and every additional attack he uses with like an overhead chop. It's a very strong ability if you know how to control him, and it can combo in and really finish off most of these heroes pretty quickly if you know how to use it. Similar to Grievous, it can be a really good sprint ability, but I'd say it's a little bit harder to master. He has a good mid-range speed similar to all the other Jedi. His force abilities are okay. He's got his lightsaber throw, and then he has force pull. I would just say though, Obi-Wan Kenobi's assortment of basic attacks, sprint attacks, and jump attack, they operate a little bit better. Ki-Adi-Mundi's special. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Ki-Adi-Mundi as a character in the game, but it's okay. You know, he's a really strong, usable hero. One of the better ones in the game. Princess Leia. We got to fill out our Poodoo section, and Leia is absolute trash. Yeah, I would say Leia just barely better than Chewbacca in this sense. Weak blaster choice. Her blaster operates very similar to Jango Fett in the sense that it's a sniper pistol. So you're essentially carrying around a sniper rifle as a handgun for Leia. So if you're good at scoped blasters, you know, maybe you can sneak yourself up into the never tell me the odds territory. It's a tricky gun to use. You get maybe like 3-4 shots or so before it overheats, and then you have a cooldown, and that's it. You don't have a secondary weapon. That's what you got. You don't have the force, so you have a slower run speed. It's going to be the same as Han Solo and Jango Fett and Boba. So good luck trying to get away. No jetpack. She has invulnerability, which it is the best support ability in the game. If you use it in heroes versus villains, super effective. It's okay in Conquest. It's just, you know, good luck trying to get more than 3 or 4 teammates right by your side at all times. But a lot when you're a hero, it just kind of is, especially in this game in particular, support abilities like rage, even invulnerability, they're not the move. Thermal detonators, that's what you get. And I would say I'm like, yo, time bomb or thermal detonators, it's pretty rough. I'm like, yo, like, and they don't even do more damage than your typical thermal detonator. Is Leia a hero really from an operational perspective? I don't know. But you know, I've completely been mossed by Leia playing as the Chosen One cast of characters too. So yeah, if you're playing Leia, like you props to you, y'all. So we got Mr. Lukey Luke himself. We'll drop him in the Never Tell Me the Odds, and I'd put him right after Count Dooku, but they're a really close tie in this situation. So I know we mentioned earlier that Luke shares the same base move attack ability as Ki-Adi-Mundi, which is one of the better base attacks in the game. Great against individuals and groups. He has a good jump attack, kind of hits multiple characters. He spins around a little bit, so it's essentially Aayla Secura's jump attack. Good jump attack, and he has a pretty good sprint attack. It's the same as Yoda. I would say his sprint attack is just better because he has a longer lightsaber. At this point, it's Luke Skywalker's selection of abilities. He has lightsaber throw, which is okay, but he gets force push. So I'm like, I'd rather take Ki-Adi-Mundi's in that move set with force pull versus force push. You're going up against Dooku one-on-one. I think Dooku's going to be winning it, you know. Good luck getting out of force choke. So it's tough, man, because I really think Luke deserves to be in the high ground. He definitely can be moved up based on, you know, character moveset. All right, so we're finishing up with the Shifus out here. So we got Palpatine. Right, I am the Senate himself. Well, probably put Palpatine after Grievous under the I hate sand. I want to be able to, like, I like the Emperor as a character and, you know, Palpatine, but in the game, he's slow. He is not as slow as Darth Vader, but his movement speed debatably is the slowest outside of Darth Vader in the game. So the dude's, he's hovering. He's definitely cool, but slowly hovering as his base speed. His sprint ability is slow. I think his sprint is about as fast as the non-force users. He's just kind of floating faster. But not much faster. He has the float jump ability. Darth Vader has a better jump attack ability than Palpatine. Palpatine has this really cool looking lightning force pound for his jump attack, but it's trash. Like, you know, you can kind of knock some enemies off their feet. There's a slight stun, but it doesn't do a ton of damage. There's a little bit of AoE, so it's great against infantry characters. Probably going to be playing Emperor Palpatine against all these other heroes, and he's just, that jump attack's going to put you up for an immediate just combo. You're just leaving yourself in the open. His basic attack is trash. It's okay against infantry, but what basic attack isn't? What are his abilities? He has force choke, which we mentioned is S tier, but he has force lightning. So you have force choke, but the issue is you can't close the distance sometimes fast enough to really pull off a combo to follow up with force choke. We played the game back in the day. The computer version of Palpatine would literally just be floating around, just lightning everyone. I feel like he never used his lightsaber when he was by a CPU. His sprint attack's kind of trash too. I'll throw that one out there. It's the same as Count Dooku, or it's just kind of like a horizontal lightsaber swing. We got our last one, and I know this might be tough for a lot of folks, but Yoda is in Bantha Poodoo. The better version of Bantha Poodoo. He is worse than Palpatine and worse than Grievous. It's just tough. It's because of the Short King energy is just too strong here. You feel the lack of height with Yoda. His damage output and his ability to land hits is also extremely difficult. Like, his lightsaber hitbox is super small. He has a slower base speed just because he can't really move that quick. His force sprint pretty quick though. I think it is just as fast as the other characters. He has a slower base speed. He's kind of like around the same speed as Grievous and Palpatine. But the basic lightsaber attack is rough. He has a smaller hitbox, but as soon as someone hits you though, it's pretty easy for them to just keep following up, and you're always at a disadvantage of trying to close the distance. It's the only character that you really feel like, yo, like having a lightsaber a little bit longer would be really helpful. He has an okay jump attack. It's the same one as Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's just trash because he's a little bit smaller. So Yoda's actually very interesting with his force abilities. He has both force push and force pull. I think saber throw is better than both. For me, it just drops him in a lower tier. Force push just, you know, happens to give you a little bit more range, but I'm like, why would you need more range when you already need to close the distance? Force pull's okay, but you'll notice when you start force pulling that sometimes you will force pull someone and they will fly over you as Yoda. You're just too short. You just gotta play him. I know it sounds wild. Yoda is just not the move. He definitely could be sneaky because you just might miss him. If you go prone, turn off that lightsaber, you could just hide behind a trash can and no one would know. And that is my ranking. Hopefully this is helpful for some of y'all who will be jumping into Battlefront Classic Edition. And I'm sure Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress are going to be, you know, throwing a little bit of a mix with this whole tier list. If y'all ever down to talk about Battlefront 1 or 2 Classic, hit me up, drop it in the comments. If y'all have like a different suggestion for ranking and a different way that you utilize one of these characters to get them into the Chosen One tier, please let me know. And if you think some of these Chosen Ones or I have the high grounds really belong in Pudu, I know everyone's got a different play style. It's part of that Battlefront community. Thanks again for watching, y'all. And as always, just remember to stay down to be down.